this one-on-one, and that's how critical and crucial it is. But to Mike's point, this is how you determine where you go next with your week, with your month, based off of these meetings. So without this meeting done correctly, everything else is going to be a bit of a whirlwind, right? You guys know the whirlwind versus obviously the wig. So the whirlwind represents 80% of what we do. The problem is most people allow it to consume 100% of what we do. We don't actually get to the key things. So this will help with that, okay? All right, so the power of the one-on-one. Number one is going to allow you to set very clear expectations with your team member, right? Relationships in general. If you have a disconnect on expectations or a lack of dialogue on expectations, right, there's going to be some sort of fallout. If you're in a relationship with somebody and you keep getting mad because their dishes are out on the counter and you get so angry, but you never even discussed it, it's really your fault for not bringing it up because there's unspoken expectations. So this will eliminate that gap. Okay? Number two, these provide your team the tools necessary. So whatever goals, commitments they have, you're double checking, triple checking to make sure that they're capable of executing and or filling in the gaps, setting up an additional training to make sure you're clearing the path, right? Like servant leadership, making sure we're clearing the path to make sure they're capable of doing it. And then lastly, and this is for, this is where the step that most people miss is this follow-up. Because a lot of times there's friction in that follow-up. Did you do what you said you were going to do? No, I didn't. Okay, so I'm going to avoid this, right? It's like the ugliest frog first. You got to deal with that. This will ensure that you're getting that follow-up, that cadence, right? That cadence, that follow-up. So when we do all of this, when it's done right, this is what's going to happen. Number one, you're going to avoid micromanaging. Now, most of the team members that you hire and the generation in which they come from, that word micromanaging is really like bad, right? You've heard that before, and we're going to avoid that. We're going to have a little give and take on this one. So nobody likes micromanagement, so that's going to be solved. Number two is you're going to have, like as an owner, you're always like, you need to have your pulse on the business. And sometimes, I remember when I was newer, it's like I need to know every minute. What sale was that? How much did it do? Right? Which gets a little overwhelming, especially if you want to scale. But even if you're in that one club, it's not a pleasant thing to do long term, right? You burn yourself out. You need to have continuous pulse on your business, and the proper one-on-one allows you to relax a little bit because you know you have your checkpoints, all right? And lastly, it's going to give team members the right amount of autonomy. As long as you're paying your team members, a decent wage, they'll never quit because of that. They will quit because they lack purpose in their roles. If they lack purpose, there's nothing you can do, right? They don't have their why, if you will. By giving autonomy allows that why to develop more. Right? They allow them to develop that why and drive that purpose. Therefore, they're not going to be concerned about working a couple extra hours. They're not going to worry that some other, Amazon is going to give them $15 an hour to work in a warehouse, right? So that's where it's a big one, giving them the autonomy necessary. And they're going to prove it to you that they deserve it through a scoring system, okay? All right. You guys might know Jocko Willink. Anybody read any of his books? Right? Great book. Many of them. So discipline equals freedom. That itself appears to be like a dichotomy, right? Discipline, well, that doesn't seem like freedom. But then you have, right? So by providing the discipline to do these one-on-ones, it will provide a lot more freedom for you and your team members, okay? But the key word is discipline. It's not like, oh, I'm going to do it for 2 weeks and then not, right? Think about a lot of your clients. Hey, how's your eating going? Fantastic. All right, we're still gaining some weight, so what's going on? Well, Monday through Friday is great, but then the weekends. Or I did it for 3 weeks, and then, I didn't lose enough weight, so I stopped. Same thing here. If you implement some of these things on your one-on-ones, you're not going to be like, whoa, my world is different. Look at this PT program. I'm already at 40% in 1 month. It's not going to happen. It's going to take that discipline, right? I tell people, somebody once taught me that business can be boring, and that's why so many people can't do it, because it's monotonous. You got to continue to do it, right? It's like, I think, anybody do any crew in here? Crew, like rowing? You did some studies on that, like the mindset. It's so gosh damn boring. You're literally just rowing. That's the whole sport. But there's a discipline to it, and that's what makes the most successful one. So there needs to be a discipline, an understanding. It doesn't have to be so fun every single day. The end result is going to be very satisfying.